areas that we'll look at. And the main one is the foundations of electoral integrity. And then we'll also look at countering misinformation, and then conflict-sensitive reporting. Then finally, we will also look at field safety and then ethical dilemmas as during elections or for journalists and even citizens. Yeah, so mainly we have outcomes that we expect. We cannot do any training without seeing results or wanting to see results. So they may look many in a very short period of time, but these are the goals that we set out. Bida, have you started recording? Oh, I can.
Yes,
I
I
can read
have.
from here.
I have. The live stream is on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you too. Yeah, so one of the reasons that one of the goals, the outcomes that we expect to see is that the participants, you'll be able to understand what the South Sudan Electoral Act says, and actually what is the National Elections Commission saying on election and the process, the legal processes. Then we also deconstruct the voter's journey as what are you supposed to do as a citizen or as a journalist during the voting processes. Then during campaigns and elections, it's always sensitive, but how do you manage that you don't increase on the sensitivity or cause conflict during your reporting? And then we will also look at some fact-checking tools briefly that you would use during that period, because you may find a claim that will pop up very soon or very fast, and it will affect the way you report when you don't fact check it or you don't verify it. So we'll have to look at a handy of a few tools that you can use, whether you're in the field or you're very far even, and you'd use that to verify, to clarify whatever claim that comes around. We also look at what is envelope journalism. Yeah, as journalists, we need to be independent. So we need to know what is envelope journalism and how to avoid it. Perhaps why do we? Then at the end, we would develop proactive safety protocols, both and physical and digital. Because as journalists, most of us are online. So as you work online, you're also targeted online. So you have to be smart as we are there. So the first session will be the introduction, understanding the legal framework, and a breakdown of the South Sudan Electoral Act and the role of the National Elections Commission. So this what you see in blue. This is the South Sudan Electoral Act. It's a link that you can open at any time, because if you are to open it and start going through word by word, this time will not even be enough. So you get your free time and you open it and you understand in details. Also, the second one is the National Elections Commission that you also go through at your time. However, to ensure technical accuracy in your reporting, it's essential to understand the National Elections Act, which was first drafted in 2012 and then amended in 2023. This is the primary legal engine driving the upcoming elections. So everything that the elections will be held on, we should follow the National Elections Commissions Act word by word. As a journalist, whatever thing that you report, if you hear some news or some claim and you're reporting, you have to verify first of all with the National Elections Act, so that whatever that you've heard aligns with this act. If it's outside this, then automatically you will be spreading misinformation. So what is the role of this act? There's broken down. We have like 3 roles, and then one of the main role is the legal framework, which is the key pillar for this act. So the 2023 Amendment Act was designed to align with the South Sudan Electoral Law with the revitalized peace agreement. So here we have the gender quota, whereby The Act mandates a minimum representation for women at all levels of governance. This is a critical metric for journalists to track during the nomination phase. The recent government, there's a lot of complaints. People say the other axis allow the 35, but then it's not being lived up to. So sometimes that is not lived up to because we also know how currently our government is formed. It's not been through elections, but it is been how the parties decided to distribute the positions. So during the elections, this will have to be followed in into line. And as you're reporting, you have to follow, you have to show whether this 35 is being fulfilled or not. If not, why and in which locations. And then the other legal framework that the Act gives is the voting system. Here we have the presidential, a two-round system, the absolute majority of 50% plus one, whereby whoever wins 50% plus one is declared the winner. It means the rest, if there are two candidates, it means the other one will have 49. So the one with 41 will go. Or if it goes up to 90 or whatever number, doesn't matter. But as long as it's 50 and above. However, if there are many candidates and then the best has less than 50, then the best two will have to go for a rerun, and then the best one, the one with 50 plus one, takes the seat. And then another one is legislative, a hybrid system where 50% of seats are first past the post. So first past the post is a in a geographical sense, where this is a system which shows that whoever has the most votes takes the seat. And most times, this system is okay. This system is not allowed to run alone because in some instances, if it's allowed to run alone, you'll find that maybe a single party may sweep everything, or a single gender. Like here we have 35%, and now if it's all 100% males, first past the post, then it will not be balancing. It will not rhyme well with the first one. So this is the main one. However, it is always accompanied with the others. So while the remaining seats, including the women's list and the youth, are filed through proportional representation. So this was what I was saying. The first one, the first past the post is put in place. However, it also runs with the proportional representation where the youth come in, the women, people with disability, the minority, things like that. So we have the timeline. This is also a legal framework for the Act or the Electoral Commission network. It's their role to give us the framework. So in our case, we have challenges. We know that. Well, they tell us the previous time. However, up to date, all what we know is that the current elections will be on December 2026. So that is the current timeline that we have, unless otherwise anything is changed. And if it is changed, it has to be the Electoral Commission to change it, and it has to make it through it has to be approved also through all the legal processes. But for now, this is what we all know, and that's what we have. So if you're reporting, if you hear anything that's outside this, then you have a reason to look for other sources to verify, to find out the truth. The second role of the NEC is just more than counting. The NEC is the sole body authorized by the to manage elections and referenda. Its role is defined by four main pillars of responsibility. So one of them is operational and logistical. So before any election, you're supposed to have the voters. Even before the candidates come out, we're supposed to have the voters. And these voters are supposed to be registered. in an organized national voter registry. And this registry is supposed to be this is the role of the National Elections Commission, to organize it and to register everybody. Then another role is boundary delimitation, or determining the geographic constituencies. You can also see it's a blue link. So there was a data story that was done by the Clarity Desk, detailing the current geographic constituencies of South Sudan. So during your free time, you will go there and read and get all the details. Besides, we also had one of the colleague in the WhatsApp group. He shared a document with all the geographic constituencies. So getting that information is not hard. Now you have all the sources here. We have two sources already that you can use. So why is it important as a journalist? This is often a point of a local contention or local tension. Journalists should report on this with high sensitivity. So yeah, most times people don't understand well where this geographical constituency starts and ends, and sometimes it causes uh, misinformation or people get it wrongly. So as a journalist, as you're reporting, you're supposed to know exactly where this constituency is and who is supposed to be in that constituency legally. So, and then another one is logistics, the procurement and the movement of all of ballot boxes, papers, and ICT equipments. So, when it is now time for elections, there's a lot of electoral uh, products that are moved. So that's not anybody's responsibility. The government will come, the other bodies of government like the police will come in to give security and what. But this is a pure role of the National Electoral Commission to do that. Uh, for those who have been following the Ugandan elections, you find that there's been a lot of issues here and there, complaints where the DRR forms have, others say the DRR forms were being confiscated by unknown people. Others say the ballot boxes were being tampered with. So this all, in case of anything like this, it's a responsibility of the National Electoral Commission. And if you're to ask if there's anything that goes wrong, the first person you have to ask is the National Electoral Commission, to ask why this is not happening like this. And then finally, they also have a regulatory and the oversight role. So the National Electoral Commission nominates, they make sure they nominates the candidate, they set the criteria and the deadlines for who can run for the office. They set out all this, like if you want to stand for presidency, they set the rules. For a president, you're supposed to have this and this and this. You're supposed to be a South Sudanese, educated to this level, person of integrity, things like that. So everything is put out by them. Then if it's time for you to come and pick the nomination forms, you pick them and you take them to them. Then they verify whether you qualify or not. In addition to that, they also set out the campaign regulations. They determine the campaign period and how much money the candidates is supposed to spend, how much they're supposed to pay, and then if the government funds, most governments, most countries, of course, give the candidates campaigning money. So how much is determined by them, and they expect you to also spend it on the campaigns and perhaps gives accountability. And then media and the observer accreditation. So as a journalist, it's also the National Electoral Commission to give you accreditation to run through the campaigns. They permits you to cover the elections, either you're local or even international. So when you're coming from another country, you cannot just say because there are elections there and you're a journalist, you just go and start covering. You have to go to the National Electoral Commission. They give you the permission to run. So that is their role as the national body conducting elections. So as a journalist, you should also know that even if you've been working for all the years, During this time, you must get accreditation from the NEC so that you don't get into issues. And then another role is also civic education. This is very important. And if you've been following if you've been following them either through their social media or their website, you see that even on the website, there's a whole department for civic education. So activities like this that we are doing, uh, trainings like this, it's done in partnership with the National Electoral Commission. So uh, they lead, and then whoever is doing whatever is along that line is gets permission from them and should go through the National Election Commission. And then the journalist tips. So you use the National Electoral Commission official glossary of terms to ensure your broadcast use the same terminology as the official polling station signage. Yeah, so you'll find that, of course, during election, there are other specific words that will come. So as you're also covering the election, you make sure you follow those words or those terms as given by National Electoral Commission. So, because the one for South Sudan may have a different one, the one for Kenya has a different one, Uganda has different one. So you may have been knowing the one for Uganda, then since it's South Sudanese election and you use it, yet it's a different term. So as you're carrying out you're either writing on your newspaper or on your uh, podcast or broadcast media, you have to make sure every term that you use aligns well with whatever the National Electoral Commission does. Then they also have a quasi-judicial power. For example, if there are disputes, it's their role to bring um, the contending parties together and then resolves such disputes. For example, sometimes there are issues where a candidate will complain that he has been rigged or things did not go in his favor. The first place he complains to is the National Electoral Commission. If it fails there, then he can appeal or petition the Supreme Court or another designated electoral tribunal. But the first person to do this is the National Electoral Commission. So another one that we look at is the structure hierarchy for your who to call list. As a journalist, you'll find that we always need contacts, or we need, as you're getting our information, we need to sources. So at the national level, we have the National Election Commission Board, which consists of 9 members. When you open that link that I shared at first, you'll find those details there, all the names of the 9 board. And their responsibility is to formulate policies, timelines, and then final results declaration, which is led by the chairperson, which of whom I know, all of you, you know him, is Mr. Alier. And then at state level, we also have the State High Commissioner. His role or his responsibilities is overseeing the 10 states and the 3 administrative areas. He's the primary contact for local news. So when you're not within Juba, so you complain, who will I go to? So that's the first person or the person that you can go to and refer in your reporting, because there's nobody who will know the information in the state more than he does. Then going down to the county and the local or the bombers and the PIAMs. So we'll have the polling staff. For these ones, they do the day-to-day of execution of work, counting, and then the original tallying. So when the content is delivered to the stations, of course, the polling staff will be there from the Electoral Commission. Now, at this moment, we also have the staffs. We also have the agents of the candidates, but every legal work will be led by the polling staffs who will see the bringing of the ballot boxes, opening, making sure they are not tampered with, overseeing that people have voted peacefully, and then at the closer time, everything is counted. By the time it's counted and recorded transparently, and then it is sent to the next level, which is the state, from where the state will send them to the national level. So as a journalist, as a citizen, if you have any complaint at this level, at the polling staff, at the first people, or the reliable people that you will have to go to, yeah, you should be able to know all of them at at the station that you'll be, or at the level where you'll be. Yeah, so any question so far? Anyone with a question? Or okay, even the inbox is free, so we can continue. The second topic will be the voters' journey. So explaining registration, polling station logistics, and the counting process to the public. So to demystify the election for your audience, you must be able to explain the voters' journey as a simple step-by-step process. So in South Sudan, where a national census has been bypassed for the 2026 vote, the journey relays on the established 2010 boundaries and in the new registration efforts. Yeah, as we all know, the challenges, especially logistically, the National Electoral Commission came out and say it's not going to carry out a census, which is actually supposed to be very important for the elections, given the fact that our previous census was in 2010, where we're not even a country yet. So it was very important. However, due to limitations that are beyond our control, we'll still use that. And the boundaries, the geographical boundaries that I shared with you above are actually generated from this 2010 uh, uh, census. So we'll use that to follow. Uh, so the first step is voter registration, which is the foundation. As of early 2026, if you check on the neck, it will tell you it has shifted into the registration. However, on the ground, I don't think whether it has actually kicked off officially. So this is the most critical phase for journalists to cover, as no registration means no vote. So if it kicks off officially, at least it will be a point of interest for every journalist to cover this. You don't only cover so that it makes news, but it's also another way of creating awareness and transparency in the electoral process. It also helps the citizens to know who is actually eligible to be registered. Some people may not know what the constitution say about this, so your work around this will also create awareness. So eligibility, one of the eligibility to show that you're able to be registered is that you're supposed to be a South Sudanese citizen with all the necessary documents as South Sudanese and at least 18 years old and of sound mind. Because as a registered voter, uh, as you go to vote, your decision is going to decide a lot for the country. So you should vote when your mind is sober and sound throughout. And then the process, the voters must visit a designated registration center in their constituency. So since a new census was not conducted, the NEC is using the 102 geographical constituencies established in 2010. So we will ask ourselves, Some of us were in a different location when this 2010 was done. Some of you were below 18 when the 2010 census was done, and they could not uh, even participate in the referendum that happened. So, yeah, as this registration takes place, you will, of course, be designated a center among these 102. So wherever you will be, you'll have your name will be somewhere. So that's where you're expected to vote when the date for voting comes. If you want to vote from where you are born from and currently in Juba, and it's during the registration time, then you have to go to the village where you are born. However, if you want to be registered here, you have to you change and you be registered here. And when voting times come, you have to make sure you're within here and be also vote from here. You cannot be registered here and then vote from a different location. And then the proof of identity. So we said earlier that you're supposed to be a South Sudanese uh, by nationality. So you should have a national ID, which is preferred. The law often allows for community testimony, identification by traditional leader or a group of registered voters if formal documents are missing. So there are exceptions here. If you don't have your ID as such, but then you have especially your traditional leaders or people that can back you up with evidence, then you can also be registered. Then at the outcome, the voter receives a voter's card. Journalists should emphasize that this card must be kept safe until the voting day. Actually, even after the voting day, you can still keep it. I still have mine for 2010. Although I even didn't vote from here, I was somewhere in a camp, but I was able to vote, and I still have the voter's card up to today. So it doesn't cause you anything to keep it even beyond the voting day or the voting years. So you should have after registration, you should have a voter's card that you'll present when you come to the voting station on that day. And then the polling station logistics on the election day. The journey moves to the polling station. So for your listeners, explain the physical flow. So here you have also to tell your listeners how things are done when they're on the ground. So the voter presents their card, staff check their name against the physical voter registration. So the name on your card, on your voter's card, should also reflect what is on the register, because we have a lot of people that may have similar name or related names. Some are differentiated with one name, others are even differentiated with spellings. So you have to make sure the person voting is actually you. And there'll also be a picture, your picture on the voter's card and in the voter's register. So all this has to be verified beyond doubt that the person voting or person at the voters polling station is actually you. And when now you're at the polling station, you make sure you receive the ballot. So the voter, much as the results have not yet come out, so but what we not the results, the how our voting style will be, but what temporarily what we have is that we'll have a presidential ballot paper, then the geographical constituency. Earlier on, I talked about the first past, the post, and then the party list of the proportional representation, including the 35% women's list. And then you go to your separate booth where you mark the person of your interest. And after that, you'll have incredible ink. That is, you dip in one of your fingers to show that you have voted, to avoid multiple voting, because you may have a candidate of your interest that you like so much, and you find that you'll see that only one vote is not enough. You'll want to vote more than once. However, in the general election, your vote only counts once. So there's no way you'll vote more than once. So to avoid all this, after voting, you have to have that mark of the ink, which will stay for more than a day or two, so that when you go to another, when you come back or try to go to another polling station, still there'll be there'll be evidence to show that you've already voted. And then the counting process. This is also another very important uh, process in the election circle or in the voting circle, whereby some candidates usually complain. Mostly those who lose, they complain at this process. They say their votes were being stolen or were being rigged at the counting stage. So the processes here has to be transparent, where we have the polling agents from the National Electoral Commission, and then the agents of the candidates, and then even you, the voters, you have to be there at the counting moment to make sure everything is as transparent as possible. And then the journalist will also be there to witness and write exactly what happened. So uh, you have to actually see and write or report what you've seen, not being somewhere you hear someone said this, that things were not transparent, or the person who was announced is a different one without any evidence. So to avoid all this, you have to be on the ground and see exactly what happened. And then counting at the source. Of course, after the voting is done, the first counting is done at the polling station, and everything is recorded, and everyone that is on the ground has a copy of the information or of the votes being casted, who got what at that specific time. So they are not moved to a central location before being counted. So here we're saying before they're taken to the central location, at this stage now to the state or the national level, they cannot be brought before they are counted. So they have to be counted at where the voting took place. Much as they will have to verify at the other stages, but you have to first count them from the ground. And then the witnesses, I've already explained this. The first witnesses are the party agents or the candidate agents, because there are others who also come as individuals or independent candidates. So every agent has to represent either a party or a candidate. So you have to agree, you have to witness and agree that whatever that was being counted or reported is actually correct. And then we have observers. Sometimes you have national and international monitors who will also observe uh, what is actually taking place, or uh, how the voting started and how it is ended. They also write what they have seen. And then finally, the journalists who have to be there, and you have to be accredited media personnel. Then the tally sheet, which is Form 8, once counted, the results are recorded on a tally sheet signed by the presiding officer and party agents. So a copy is usually posted outside the polling station for public viewing. So all this comes because we want transparency as democracy, that people are given the power to vote, and then you have the power to know actually who you voted and how your process, how the person that you voted, the processes were. Then the tally chain, finally, here the tally chain is how things move. From the polling station, it goes to the county, which is the constituency center. Then from there, it goes to the state high committee at the state level. Then finally, at the National Electoral Commission, which is in Juba, for declaration. So the ones to declare final winner, not at the ground, because a different candidate may win in a different voting center, but then when all the votes are brought from different areas and they're tallied up, you find that the winner is different. And it's then a work of the National Electoral Commission to announce the final winner. So another responsibility here is civic responsibility uh, versus neutrality. So this is directly to the journalist, how a journalist can advocate for a participation without endorsing a candidate. So in South Sudan's current media landscape, it's rated as repressed, mainly by international observers. The line between advocating for the democratic process and appearing partisan is rather thin. You find that most times, even the journalists were supposed to be neutral, have sides, either party or individuals. As citizens of the country, of course, you are entitled to vote candidate of your choice. But if you put on the tag of journalist, you are uh, you're supposed to be neutral. You can't show uh, your side of a journalist. Sorry, of the candidate. So you have to advocate for neutrality and then transparency, as democracy is supposed to be. Even if you see your candidate, if you see your candidate doing something that goes against democracy, then as an advocate, you have all the rights to talk about him. But some, when it comes to that, you keep quiet. You wait for the opponent to say something, that then you make a lot of noise. And I think if you've been observing in the country, even the activists, to some extent, they do that when something happens to where they come from. When they are the victims, um, they make a lot of noise. And then when it is the other way around, uh, the tone changes or the energy reduces. So as a journalist who is neutral, you're supposed to not to take any side in participation when it comes to election. You're supposed to call a spade a spade. If you feel like you're not talking about it today, and when another candidate does it, because if you're not feeling to talk about it today because it's your candidate of your interest, and tomorrow when the other candidate does it, you also better go silent and keep quiet. So defining the roles as advocate and a reporter. So as a journalist, you wear two hats. The key is never to let them overlap in a single sentence. As I earlier on said, as a citizen, you have the right to vote and to participate in electoral processes as democracy calls out for. However, you find that you have a civic hat and then you also have the editorial hat. So when you're putting on the civic hat, you are an advocate for the right to vote. You encourage participation, explain the contents of a peaceful transition, and then highlight the 35% gender quota and any other thing that entitles to a transparent democracy. However, now if you put on your editorial hat, now you're a player. Also here, you are a neutral observer of candidates. You report what they say. You verify their claims and provide equal time to opposing views without taking a side. Yeah, if you've been following Ugandan elections, you see that newspapers like uh, the Monitor, the Daily Monitor, or the NTV, actually, they had issues with the ruling government. And then NBS was enjoying covering most of the events because the government says, or the NRM said, uh, the NBS was biased when reporting them or when reporting about their activities. So they had issues. So as a journalist, you are not supposed to have issues with any of the candidates or even supporters of any candidate. And this comes out from your recording. If people, the way you report, if people see that you're siding then they will conclude, of course. Then another one is practical techniques for neutral advocacy. So how do you stay neutral when the political environment is high tension? So this is also something that you should be having it on your fingertips. So there are some three strategies that I came around with. One is you focus on the issue-based narrative. So instead of asking which candidate do you support, if you go to the voters as a journalist, you have to focus on issues. So issues like the healthcare, the road security, how the development is, school fees. So what should the government prioritize next? But yeah, that's what you should concentrate most on. And then why it works. Why is it actually important? Or it empowers the voters to think about their needs rather than ethnic or party loyalty. So you find that actually as citizens, you have your rights or your needs that you're supposed to be fulfilled by the candidates. So, and most times, some of the things are prioritized by parties. People take value the party more than what they will actually do for you. Or if someone is your uncle who comes to campaigns, whether he's whether he's actually the best candidate or not, but because he's your uncle, you cannot refuse to vote your uncle. So as a journalist, you make sure people make informed decision by asking points actually. Then secondly, we'll have institutional voice for participation. So when calling for people to register, frame the call through the law or the neck rather than your own opinion. So don't say, I think everyone should go to register so we can change the country. Like you cannot use such headlines or such call to actions. Rather, we will say the National Elections Act provides every citizen the right to have a say in their future. So the next registration centers in such and such locations open at this time up to 5 p.m. So you see that this is not your words, but this is a call to a citizen to fulfill his responsibilities in a country. And then the equidistance rule, this is the last one. If you interview a candidate from for example, the SPLM, you must proactively seek an interview with a candidate from SPLM, IO, or an independent candidate. So the goal is if a listener tunes in for 30 minutes, they should not be able to guess which party you personally prefer. So here is the logic here is that if you only interview one candidate, the listeners will judge obviously that this is the candidate of your interest. But if you have two or three different parties represented, of course, they will know that you're discussing issues pertaining the country. Yeah. So avoid the trap words to use and lose. So your choice of vocabulary can accidentally signal bias or incite tension. So these are some of the words that we should avoid. I put in summary form. So like our leader, the people's choice. As a journalist, that's not your work to say this. It's you leave that to the other people out there. If the party people who are campaigning for their best candidate. So for you, what you can use is things like the candidate or the aspirant or the party. This party so and so said this. So the reason here is that remove personal or emotional attachment. So if you already say your leader, then you already have a side and you have no choice. People will just conclude that you are campaigning for that side. And then the landslide victory is expected. As a reporter, uh, you can't say such a word also. It sends a negative information. So you would rather say voter turnout will determine the results. Yes, you can say people came out very many. So uh, the whatever results will be determined by who they actually voted for. So you don't say candidate A is going to win everything as the turnout was so big. So this avoids crafting false expectations that lead to protest. So you find that if you've already raised people's expectations that a landslide victory is there, and then at the end of the day, the opposite candidate wins, then those ones whose expectations were raised will come to the streets to complain or to protest. So to avoid all this, you have to make sure the grounds is neutral. Then the enemy come or opponent. As a journalist, you are not expected to say these words or to use these words. Political rival or other contestants. Yeah, this is uh, humble for the journalist. This accolades the war or metaphor in politics. So as you say this, people uh, get to not become so active in the other side. So another one is stronghold as a constituency. Rather, you do use a word like constituency with a high support for. So you cannot say so and so stronghold. It's it could be a stronghold, but as a journalist, it's not your word to say it's a stronghold. Because if you say it already, you are confirming, and then your neutrality and is already jeopardized. So this the reasoning here is that it avoids implying that an area belongs to a specific group of people. Then we have the do no harm principle. And this one, I think, as journalists, we all know. In South Sudan, a journalist's civic responsibility includes peace journalism. This means vetting people's voices. So if a caller, for example, a caller on a radio show uses hate speech or ethnic slur, it is your responsibility to cut the feed and explain why that language is not permitted. Yeah, so as you host people, people will become excited, they will say anything. But as a radio station or as a journalist, you have your ethics that controls your radio and or your media. So you explain to that person that we don't work here like this. Instead, we do this. Then reporting on results. Remind listeners that provisional results from a polling stations are not final results. Your civic duty is to prevent premature celebration that could turn into violence if the official results differs. So that was our first session of understanding elections and the role of NEC and the National Elections Act. So we are going to the next, which is countering misinformation and conflict sensitive. Any question? Uh, um, Ginamba is asking, what are the most common threats to electoral integrity in our context of South Sudan? I think these are many, and actually, if you follow what I've been saying, uh, you just see that I've actually directly or indirectly explained most of them. One of it that I'll repeat is biasness. As a journalist, you're supposed to be unbiased. You're not take sides. Even if you have a party, okay, candidate of your choice that you love so much, but it's not your role to show the world that you are supporting so and so. It's your role to tell the people, to guide the citizens as that we are supposed to do, the candidate is supposed to do this. When he's campaigning, he's supposed to say this. And then as citizens, we are supposed to benefit this and that from a particular candidate. If it's a member of parliament, what do you expect from a member of parliament? If it's a president, what do we expect from the president? Sometimes some people they vote for them for the members of parliament, and then they expect the member of parliament to build for them maybe houses or but it's because we don't the voters actually don't understand. They vote uh, ignorantly without knowing that I'm voting for a member of parliament. He's supposed to do legislation for us, and that's his work, not to build for us houses or give us money or food. So that's the work of the journalist. So if you're biased, then you find that you will not uh, do what you're supposed to do. And then can government provide the money to candidates for the campaign, or is it candidates' money? Uh, of course, the government gives money, but the candidate also has to have a registration fee before you're given the money for campaigns. So the government decides how much he gives each candidate. So if it's enough or it's not enough, it's now you, the candidate, to make sure you use the money. But there's always an amount allocated by the government for the campaigns for each candidate. Yeah, for the threats, electoral integrity, there are many. So we go through this, you will understand that such. But it depends also on the area. And then I've talked much about as journalists, the challenges as journalists, that is the biasness, there's biased challenge. As voters, there are different challenges, and as candidates also, there are also different challenges. So yeah, for today, let's concentrate as journalists, the main challenges as journalists. The next topic that we are going to look into is countering misinformation and conflict sensitivity. I'm sure all of us in the call, at least we have at a time or the other, have ever heard about the word misinformation or countering misinformation. So here, in a digital age where a single viral rumor can spark localized violence, the journalist's role as the guardian of truth is more critical than ever. So this session provides practical tools to verify information and a framework for reporting that prioritize peace over clicks. So yes, always, and it has been proved that during elections, there's a lot of misinformation, especially electoral misinformation. And that's why as the Clarity Desk, we actually want to put a lot of energy on this. Actually, if you're going to have the elections, then we need this as citizens, as journalists, and even as government to make sure we know how to counter misinformation. Because some people will actually say well, they are countering misinformation, but in real sense, and they're spreading it. So, but if you're equipped, we are all equipped, we'll know who is lying and who is saying the truth. So we don't limit it to journalists. Everyone has a right, or everyone has a responsibility in this case to fight misinformation or digital spoiled information disorder. So verifying the viral, practical fact checking. So journalists must act as filters, not a megaphone. So you see that, as I said, that during election process, there's always a lot of viral information, which is wrong. Misinformation always is packed by events. A lot of it, as you have been following in the group, and even before joining the group, those ones who have been active in the information cycles, you've been seeing that if anything happens anywhere, there's always a lot of related information, either right or wrong. So, as journalists, people will always rush to you to ask, is this true or is this not true? Or when you're reporting, people will know, for so and so, he always reports the rightful thing. So we'll go through a new or a method which we shall call sift briefly. So in the sift, we will say you stop. The S stand for stop. So if a post triggers a strong emotional reaction, anger or fear, do not share it. Emotional content is the hallmark of misinformation. So these informers or people who spread misinformation, most of the time, they play with our emotions. They attack us from the weakest point of our emotion. They make sure they make you angry very fast. So when you're angry, or they cause you to get fear, to get scared. So in this moment, when you act out of emotions, not out of reasoning. So when you see such, you take a step back, you stop, and then you analyze. You find that when you do that, uh, you realize if it's a misinformation, then you'll have saved a lot of people or information from spreading, or actions that would be dangerous to the community out there. Then after stopping, what do? You investigate the source. So is the account verified, for example, or the or brand new? In South Sudan, like official bodies like the NEC or the Ministry of Interior. So you'll find that as we are going to elections and activities are going to get active, you're going to find there's a lot of Facebook pages for electoral commission that are going to come up, and even individuals, those people in the board members. Someone will go to the website, get the name of one of the board members, get the title, create a Facebook page, and start posting nonsense. And you'll find that some of these people actually even don't have Facebook accounts. They will not know what is happening behind on social media with their names. So when you see such, first thing you have to verify this account, see whether it is actually for this person or not. There are very many ways of verifying. One of them is physically you call the person or find out whether this person is on social media. And then you can also go deep and find whether when this page was found, you can verify whether the page was just created yesterday or long time. And then you can even go as far as finding out where this page is hosted. So you'll find that someone claims to be a South Sudanese or claims to be the chairman of the Electoral Commission Board. But if you go deep the page, you find that this person is either in Europe or in the US. So if you don't follow these details, you will act on information which is being spread by a disinformer or someone who has bad intentions, uh, claiming or thinking that it's actually the person in South Sudan who has done it. Then the F here, then find trusted coverage. So you check it if established local outlets like iRadio, Radio Tamazuj, or the City Review are reporting the same thing. If they are silent, the news is likely to be a rumor. There are many verifiable sources like the ones I've given and others, SSBC, and many others that I've not mentioned. But if it's not all there, then you have to actually treat the information with contempt. And then you have to trace now. You have to trace the origin, trace back to the origin. So here now we bring tools like the Google reverse image search to see if a photo of a current violence is actually an old photo from 2013 or 2016. So in most cases, these formers uses pictures or uses images. And this is the Google reverse image tool is one of the fastest tool that you can use that we help you find out whether it is true or it's wrong. I hope all of us, if all of us know how to use the Google reverse image search tool. Yeah, anyone who doesn't know how to use that tool, because at least that's one of the tools that we have taught for over and over again. Okay, then tool spotlight. For AI generated threats, keep an eye on audio deepfakes, manipulated voice notes of political leaders. Always cross-reference controversial audio with official press releases. So there's a lot of misinformation that comes out when an information is passed out. So make sure you cross check. Actually, last was it last week? I almost also fell a victim. There was this presidential decree which was made, and then if the minister in the president's office released a document, and then some people also went out and duplicated the same document. The only difference was that the one for the presidents had there were two officials dismissed and then one replaced. So the duplicate included that there were two dismissed and then two replaced. So if you are not so keen, you'll be like, this is just the same. So you have to be top notch. You have to make sure you follow details to every detail and make sure you don't fall a victim, especially as a journalist. You're supposed to be on the lookout always and be smarter than every other person out there. Yeah, so we'll also look at the conflict sensitive reporting. Conflict sensitivity isn't about hiding the truth. It's about reporting the truth in a way that doesn't incite furthermore harm. Yes. So sometimes something harmful happens actually. So, for example, community A attacks community B, and it's very dangerous. That sometimes if people of community A, when they hear about the news, when they're in somewhere, they may react. But then, as journalists, are we not going to report such things? No, we have to report, however bad they are. But the language that we use has to be sensitive. For example, we have to avoid triggers and hate speech. So here we have to remove labels. For example, instead of using equatorial youth, you use armed youth and say armed youth attacked village A or village B. You cannot say equatorial youth attacked village A, because um, in this way, you'll have put the whole equatoria as being hostile or attackers or being dangerous. So the community attacked will actually also react. So which is very sensitive and very dangerous. So we use words like armed youth or opposition members to make it look a little bit neutral or like general. So describing people by their actions rather than their ethnicity prevents collective blaming. So if it's an individual from a particular community, you call him out. That so and so did this, but you don't say so and so from this community did this and that. Then humanize the data. Instead of saying 10 people were killed, describe the impact on the community. Say 10 families in a particular location have lost their breadwinners. Yeah, so much as it sometimes it doesn't make sense, it looks like it doesn't make sense, but it cools down the tension or reduces on the how people will look at the people who actually attacked. So issue-based versus personality-driven narratives. So here, shift the microphone away from political insults and towards citizens' needs. So, for example, personality narrative, candidate A called candidate B a traitor. Here you find that this one fuels tension. Instead, what you use is issue-based narrative, whereby you say both candidates were asked how they will address the rising cost of grain in central Equatoria. So now you explain how candidate A said and how candidate B said, by not saying this one called the other one a traitor. So peace journalism, we have already mentioned it up there, uh, which is do no harm principle. Here, peace journalism focuses on the root causes of conflicts and the solutions being proposed, rather than just a scoreboard of who is winning or who is losing. So here, proactive reporting. Do not just wait for a riot to report. Report on the peace committee is working to prevent it. So if you find that, if you know that there's tension escalating somewhere, and then there are commissions or committees being established to fight about them, you report about them also. Report what is being done so far, how it's trying to bring about calm in the area. Some journalists will wait until violence takes place. This when you come and report because you think it makes more news than actually when it is peaceful. So we would say you have to report actually before it comes, the violence comes. This one tries to uh, also cool the other people who would actually join uh, the violence in case it escalates or it would escalate. And then the cooling effect. So during live talk shows, if a caller uses inflammatory language, the presenter must intervene immediately. I've already said this in the other slides. So it's also your role as a journalist to moderate the people that you host. For example, if you're in radio and if you're writing, you actually, if you interview somebody and then not whatever, everything that somebody has told you, that you report. So this is a key summary of of the second session. And keep the main key takeaways are that here we have focus, traditional reporting. You mostly such journalists focuses on who is winning, but then on the conflict sensitive reporting, you focus on how is the community being affected. And then secondly, the language. Traditional reporting will focus on victory, defeat, battles, such language. But then as conflict sensitive, you will also you will have to use words like participation, representation, or issues. You have to look at who is the best candidate or who said what is going to do this. Issues exactly affecting the citizens. That's what you report about. And then the goal here, you traditionally being fast to report. This is breaking the news. You want to be the first always to break the news. You don't care what the impact of the news will be. However, in the conflict sensitive reporting, you see that being the most accurate and safe news. It's better to come late, but when your news is consumed and it's not criticized, other than being the first to break the news and then come back later on to apologize, which is it damages your reputation as a journalist, as a media house, as yeah. That's also the second session. Uh, okay, someone was okay. We have one person who doesn't know how to use the Google reverse image search. Okay. By the way, for those ones like Salva who wants to register his party, the registration, the money for registration is your personal. The government will only give you money for campaigns, but for registration, you have to register your party, and it's also done by. It's not done by the NEC. The party registration is not done by the NEC. It's done by the parties, that commission for parties, political parties. So you pay the money the other side, and then if you qualify, that's when you come and take. take yes, I'm okay, sir. Yeah, and take everything that is necessary for the campaigns. So if there's no question for the second topic, we'll go to the third one, which is actually the last one. The one I earlier said, field safety and ethical dilemmas. Any question? I saw as if there was nothing, I guess. Yes. Yeah. So Sulfur, you know where to go. Animu is telling you is the political parties council. So whatever money they ask you from there, that is not for the elections. So you go there, you come and convince us to vote for you, as I don't know which position you're vying for. We will be here waiting. So thirdly and finally, we'll talk about the field safety and the ethical dilemmas as journalists. So in the high pressure environment of the 2026 South Sudan elections, your safety and your ethics are your most valuable assets. If you lose your integrity, you lose your audience. If you lose your safety, you can't control, you cannot tell the story. So this is a summary of a small, but if you look deep into it, it makes a lot of, uh, it has a lot of content. If you lose your integrity, of course, people will not trust you. And they will not take you serious at all as a journalist or as a media institution. And you lose all your audience. Yes, but at least you'll have your life. But if you lose your safety, it's a sad story. You cannot tell the story. So it may cost your life, which is very absurd, very sad that we don't want any of us to 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 lose our life as on line of duty, because journalism is not a crime, and journalists do very great work, and therefore we have to protect ourselves as the other parties or players also protect us, but we are the first people to protect ourselves. So we'll begin with the physical safety on the ground. Reality in South Sudan requires a proactive rather than reactive approach to security. So proactive means you have to, you have to be very careful, make sure no danger reaches you other than solving it or trying to run away from danger after it has already come. So proactive measures have to be the best thing that we do as journalists. So at the physical safety, we have the preparation phase, the body system. This is the first one. So never report alone in high tension areas. We gave these examples. These are just examples during specific moments. So during the time that you will be reporting, of course, you have to make sure you understand the security of the area where you're going. And then one of the things that you shouldn't do is, of course, if you analyze that much as it's dangerous, you can still go there. You shouldn't go alone. You have to be at least two or many, and then always have a check-in person who knows your exact location and expected return time. So here that if anything happens, for example, if you're supposed to come back by 1 and it's already 1:30 number, you have not yet come, even if it's actually 1:30 may be long, at least has to be 1:10 or 1:05, you are not yet back, then this person has to check and find out whether you're safe or there's any threat or anything like that. So never be alone. And secondly, identity and the gears. So you carry your media authority accreditation, and then the neck during elections. I said earlier on, the neck will also have to accreditate you. So you have to carry any. Those are the main ones, but then any documents that you are supposed to have, you have to carry them, and then you have to keep them also transparent. And then do not make sudden movements toward your pockets when approached by security forces. Then you have to, another strategy is that you have to have an exit strategies. So before you start an interview, identify two ways of the out of the area. If a crowd starts to gather or the energy of the room shifts towards hostility, leave immediately. No story is worth your life. So you have to be very, very, very active at this point, and you should know who is actually planning what in the area. So anything, you have to be the first person to leave the room. And by the time anything happens, you are actually out of the room. Have you already have an explanation that you can give uh, how you because at least you have another day to tell a story. Otherwise, your story should not end at the place where you went to look for a story. Journalists say you should never be the story yourself. So we shift to online or the digital safety. This is also very important like the physical one. First of all, you have to protect your data. When you protect your data, you have protected yourself. You find that you protect your physical existence person. So currently people are tracked through online or people are followed through their gadgets. So if you don't protect them, then you are, even if you follow the first criteria, when someone is actually targeting you, he will know what time you're leaving and where are you exactly at that spot. And you find that you leave the venue very safe, but along the way, uh, you are dealt with in a way which is not good. So it has to be also very important. So you have to use tools like encrypted comms or communication tools. For example, Signal. I don't know how many people use the Signal, WhatsApp with the disappearing messages for sensitive source communication. Yeah, WhatsApp disappearing messages is very important because sometimes when they confiscate your phone or your gadget, and they realize they go through it, they manage to break the passwords, then they start seeing who have you been communicating with and what have you been communicating. But if it's disappearing messages, maybe after 12 hours or 24 hours, yeah, they'll see your contacts, but there are no messages to read, or they can't trace what actually you guys are communicating. Yeah, so these two are some of the strongest encrypted uh, apps that you should use for communication. And then device lockdown. Yeah, you should always make sure your uh, gadgets have passwords. So you have to use strong biometrics or alphanumeric passcodes. In high-risk areas, consider a burner phone, a basic phone with no sensitive data, personal data, or contact list to avoid data seizure at checkpoints. Yeah, then metadata awareness. Be careful with photos. GPS metadata in a digital photo can reveal the exact location of a safe house or a vulnerable source. Yeah, so metadata, these are the details that remain on a picture. So find that they will still trace you using that metadata. And if you're taking those pictures, you have to make sure you are safe, or that information is safe. So the ethics of envelope journalism. So in South Sudan, brown envelope journalism is often locally referred as motivation or transport facilitation. However, the 2021 Media Authority Code of Conduct, uh, which is here, the link, you also get time and read. I'm going to share these slides with all of you. Uh, Here the rule says a journalist must refuse gifts, favors, or special treatment that could compromise their impartiality. So you find that you are going to cover candidates. Candidate is going to campaign, for example, in WOW, and you guys are in Juba, and then that candidate is going to, when he's going, he also puts you in his fleet, like either in the car where in the convoy where he uses, or in the plane where he's using. He's given you the air ticket, he has given you accommodation, he has given you food. So whatever he says the other side, whether it's good or wrong, of course, you already compromised. So you make sure you write in his favor. So the media authority code of conduct alone does not allow that. And as a transparent journalist, you're not supposed to do that. And then you should avoid envelope journalism as much as possible. We know journalism here is almost a sacrifice. You do a lot of work, and the proceeds, or your pay is less due to the environment where we work in. From donors, they there are few uh, donor organizations with activities around journalism. They always give trainings, they go, but funding, serious funding is not there. So you do a lot of work with the less money, but then we should make sure our impartiality is compromised with just because we want to uh, survive. So why it matters? Shouldn't we have uh, uh, envelope journalism? So the price of a free lunch, when a candidate pays for your transport or lunch, they aren't being generous. They are buying a positive headline. So this is what I was saying, that if a candidate takes you to a campaigning location, you don't have to write, you already be compromised. You write a positive story about him, not any negative anymore. Then credibility is currency. So if the public discovers a journalist is on a party's payroll, their reporting on election irregularities will be ignored. So anything that you report will no longer matter to the citizens, because they know you are being funded by the other guys, and there's nothing serious you can tell them. Then the professional solution: if a politician offers facilitation, politely decline and explain. I say my station policy prohibits me from accepting gifts, so that I can remain neutral voice. So it doesn't mean if you reject this, you are not going to report him. If he has done right, you are not going to report about him. He's doing right, you report exactly what he's doing or what he has said. And if he's doing wrong, you also report exactly what he's or what he's done. But not that because you have not taken the offer, you just write also anything that you want to write or you feel you should write. Yeah, so we are coming to the summary of this. So here the summary session for session 3. You find that there is a physical threat. The immediate action that you do is you withdraw and de-escalate. You withdraw and move away. So long-term protection, you report to media authority or UJOS or even your media house, so that they can be in the know that you are in danger, and if there's any help that is necessary, they will also report. You can report to as many authorities or bodies as possible: the police, uh, the military, if they are the immediate people, they'll give you the protection that you need, unless when they are the threat themselves. So yeah. And the bribe offer, you decline politely using station policy or channelist policy. Someone will say, I'm not attached to any station, so what will I say? Because actually some people will take some candidates will take advantage. They see you're a freelance journalist, you have nobody funding you, you're not paid, you're not on any payroll, so they come and want to use you because you look more vulnerable, you have no policy that will tie you down. There's a lot of gaps, so they will come to use you. So you also have to be smart if you actually mind about your integrity as a personal journalist at a personal level. Then advocate for better newsroom wages if it's possible. You tell your bosses you guys are getting tempted, suffering, cannot reach the you cannot reach the locations, and it is affecting your reporting. So they should actually support you by somehow increasing your wages, then or salaries. And then source protection. This is also very important because as you're going to report, uh, you will need sources, reliable sources, but make sure you don't expose these sources. Some of these may turn out to be dangerous for you and then your source. So the safety begins with you and all your sources. And if people find that they have been they can be targeted through you, then they'll run away from you, from giving you information that is needed. Yeah, I think it's been marathon, although I've been the one talking. We have 20 minutes to talk, and I will take questions if they are there, or comments or supplements, because I've been the one talking. So you guys, I also need to hear uh, what to talk. The last comment here is, but what can you do if your station gives you less money and the politician gives you huge amount of money? Yeah, exactly. This is what I've said. Here you've already been compromised, and the politician will want to look at that point, the weakest point, look at where he can hit you, and then take you take advantage of your weakest point, and that big money will make sure you don't report bad about him. And now you're misleading the whole country. The voters will act according to what you have reported. And then when you vote in someone who is incompetent, we all cry at the end of at the expense of the big money that you decided to take. So you have to stand by uh, the rules of the organization, of the station. Even if it's small money, but you already have a contract with them, you accepted to work with them in that condition or in those conditions. And yes, you can't run away from there unless you are jeopardizing. And if the station actually hears that you took much money or you took some money from a particular uh, candidate, which goes against their policy, you may end up also losing your job. Something that would not want, nobody would want happen to any of us as a journalist. Because given the fact that if you lose your job on those grounds, of course, the recommendation will not be a good one for you as an individual. So you see that all the repercussions end up being negative. Yes, now the floor is open. We have 17 minutes to share insights, what you have learned. Are your expectations met? What is missing? What do you want us to improve? Or if we are designing another session, what do we have to include? This is the time, because we just decided to design this content from our own perspective. So as our audience, also, we want you to take a lead in suggesting some of the topics that we should actually be talking about or we should be sharing about. And also, okay, someone saying his expectations have been fulfilled. Thank you, Ndani Joseph. Um, I know all this. I know all this is about awareness and crucial information about election. Okay, and my question is: are there prospects of carrying election by the end of this year? Yes. The current uh, the current timeline says in December we have an election, and we all have to stand by that we have an election in December. So whatever comes will be a by the way, but for now we have an election and we have to prepare ourselves emotionally as citizens. As citizens of South Sudan, we have responsibilities, different responsibilities, and then we have to also prepare according to that. Yes, that line. And then if anything happens, we also know. And yeah, but for now, December, we're having an elections. You will have your Christmas with a new elected president. Yes, any other question? Any other comment? We always share our attendance lists, attendance form at the end. So there's somebody who will be handling that. When the rightful time comes, he will share. Please, we have some data refund that will be at the end for those who have registered. So you ask for a little patience if until the attendance form is shared and you fill in your information, please don't leave. And let's keep this, let's use this minutes for interaction. Thanks for this facilitation. So if you could give one rule journalists should always follow in conflict situation, what should it be and why? Wow, that is very hard for me to give one rule. However, I would say, first of all, the rule will depend on the situation because there are a lot of conflicts. There are different types of conflicts. There are other conflicts like where people are real fighting, armed conflicts, which is very dangerous for you even to reach the area. And then there are others where maybe people are protesting and then the protest turns out to be violent, people are beating. You can be around and then try to be as assertive as possible. So at the end of the day, I mean, your safety matters. So how you execute that and get the news matters most. If you find that you're threatened, your life is threatened, you can even leave the story and withdraw completely. But if you can maneuver your way and get the story, uh, maneuver your way and get the story when you're safe and peaceful without causing danger to any other person, and then you should also be able to take that. Somebody saying, will this slide be shared? Yes, it will be shared later in the group and in the WhatsApp group. I'm sure all of you are in the WhatsApp group, so the slides will be shared there. How do we balance speed with accuracy during breaking election news? Yeah, uh, we have principles of journalism or fact checking that we have to follow. One of them is verification. You have to verify the news first with various sources. And then if something happens when you're on the ground and you actually seen it, or if it's a picture, you're the one who took the picture, you are very confident that whatever you're reporting is right, yes, you can break it as fast as you can. But if you had it from another person, then yeah, you much as you want the speed, you have to make sure you reach out to other sources. You cannot write news with only one source. You have to make sure you ask people in responsible offices or people on the ground that actually have the first-hand information, and you have to get as many as possible, and they should have the same or similar information for you to report. Or if it is different, then you have to use your judgment as a journalist to give the side of the story. Uh, Lastly, what is the media's responsibility when a false story is already going viral? Viral. Thanks so much, and of course, uh, your responsibility is to stop the virality, the false information with the right information, and you do this by fact checking. And when you fact check, you don't keep quiet with the information that you've fact checked. You also share, and you tell people the truth. I know they say uh, false or the lie will reach to where the lie will reach its destination when the truth is still tying its shoes. Lies always move very fast, but still, as a journalist, people will come to you when they know you are a responsible journalist. People always come to you to want to verify the information. So if you build your credibility, people will always come and verify with you. And if they see the content that you published and uh, disclaiming the false information, they will believe in your content other than the first one. So verification or fact checking is the only tool here that the media can do or should do. That is if uh, it is already in circulation. So you always have to make sure the content that you publish is as correct as possible. And then thank you for facilitating this timely training session. My question is, why is the election in South Sudan very quiet? We expect that by now, State High Electoral Commission should be very much engaged with the carrying on civic education and voter registration and education as well. Equally, media houses are not having election forecast programs that should help increase grassroots awareness on elections. Yes, I earlier on said the problem of funding. It's a big problem for media houses, media organizations, and even the National Electoral Commission itself. However, as on individual levels, as institutions, uh, you design projects like this one. We just decided to sit down and design it and make sure we also make our contribution as the Clarity Desk to make sure we create the awareness in our capacity. And yeah, so this is how we started. Uh, we reach out to journalists like you and the citizens. There are also other activities that we are doing. So at different stages, we should do our role as citizens. For the Electoral Commission, I cannot speak on their behalf, but at least if you follow them, they're supposed to be doing more than this, or more than what they are doing, but at least they're also doing what they are doing, although small yeah, but they are doing. And then if you design your projects like this or such activities like this, also make sure we bring them on board, because to some extent they also don't know who to work with, which organization to work with if we don't go to them. So if we go to them, then they also know that we are working in this area. You find that we lessen the work that they're supposed to do, then they concentrate on other activities as the commission itself. But they are doing some good work, as if you follow what they are doing. Salfa, thank you for the compliment, and then Isaac, thanks for the compliment also. Yes, this is the clarity desk. It's us and you to change how we shall have to hold our elections. Let's just be positive that we will have elections in December, and we will have peaceful elections where the voters know what to vote and how to vote, and then the candidates also know what they are supposed to offer us. So it's a combined effort from all of us. Garang, we have 6 minutes to go. I think you can now share the attendance. If you have not yet shared, drop the attendance in. Garang, are you there? Garang Gabriel? Yes. Um, I'm trying to check. We're supposed to have election attendance. I think time is as we wait for the attendance. Any questions? We can still continue to interact. So wait for the interaction has been nice, much as we decided to be on the keyboards texting. It's flowing. I'm enjoying the text that you're sending from that side. It's been so nice. Yeah. Questions. And for those who are joining us for the first time, this is we have today is the third session. So on the design, we have more too, but we are going to make sure we don't stop at we had originally designed for 5, but we're not going to stop at that 5. We'll only find ways of how to manage the rest, because it may be different from this, but because unless when we get someone who will fund us, then after the 5, we may not have data refund. But as citizens, we think that what is important is the information that we share together. So try to continue engaging. As much as you can get data, we continue running these programs as much as possible, areas of interest to the citizens, until we have our elections, or even up to beyond that. So what are the biggest risks in our media environment when it comes to fueling conflicts? Oh, the biggest risks in our media environment when it comes to fueling. Okay, so yes, John is saying even if without data refund, we're interested more in the training. Yeah, that's why I'm saying when the first 5 design projects are done, sessions are done, we will not stop. We will continue with this as much as we are still around. So the biggest risk here, your question is a little bit confusing in our media environment when it comes to fueling conflicts. So you mean like what the journalists or the media contributes in fueling conflicts, or what actually affects the journalists? Oh, okay. Yeah, so yeah, in most cases, as I earlier on said, is biasness, like when there's something, some claim that is going on, and then a journalist find out about the claim, but because he thinks if he tells the truth, it's not going to be fair to the to maybe the community, or he is already sided with it, that those people, he will continue not to tell the truth, and he will live in the biasness. He will just keep saying, actually, this is wrong. There's something which is happening currently in I think Apoeta. There's destruction, um, but then the news is actually not so clear. Other sources are saying the city, the town council is trying to demolish and demarcate the town properly. And then other people are saying they're just targeting a specific group of people who had stayed or settled in that place. So in this case, if as a journalist, you're supposed to go to the ground and find out the truth, and then explain to the public the real truth, whether actually the town council is demarcating, or they're actually targeting a specific uh, a group of people. That so if you tell the truth, and then it's known, in the end you have reduced. But if you keep with your biasness and continue, or keeping quiet, or supporting one side, you're already supporting, or you're already fueling uh, conflicts. So the main thing is here, you have to deal with your biasness, and then you continue fact checking. This is very important. You should not publish anything without fact checking. Someone is saying Garang is already kicked out of the group because of oh, I think he was kicked out because of network and he cannot access. But Excellence Foundation, I think you can help us and share uh, the attendance list is already full. So help us and share so that people can register. I think that's the main thing that is keeping us here. Yes. So journalists, you're not supposed to take sides whatsoever, either during elections or even during any other event. I think this is one of the main principles that we are taught, impartiality. So, and individually, we all have our biases. It's what we call confirmation bias in media literacy. So there's always something that we think about a place, or we think about a person, or we think about an event. So, but when you reach there, you find that you may find something either the same, or something different from what you've been thinking. So if you don't check on your biasness, you'll find that you will act uh, out of professionalism, and then the dangers will always be either individual or communal. So you know what it means. So as journalists, we shall supposed to be as transparent and not biased at all. I don't know whether Excellence Foundation had us trying to uh, Emmanuel, I think you help us share the link. Actually, I did not. Guys, just don't get off. Let me try to reach. Okay, let me see whether this is the link. Oh, someone is saying his phone is shutting down. Sorry for that. So sorry guys, they've shared with me the link. So let me also share. Yes, finally it's there. You can see. Let's. It's unfortunate some people have already gone off, but uh, it's already there. Let's fill in and then. Okay, so we already have a candidate. Okay, you're most welcome, Akir Guy Magut. Hope you'll be able to convince us to vote for you in that whatever office that you want, or that whatever office that you will be campaigning for. Have you guys seen the link, the attendance list? Uh, Anybody can confirm me that he has seen the attendance list? Hello, are we still there? Okay then. Yeah, at least this is good. Um, if we are all done with the signing, and there's no any other question, um, yeah, I think we will call it an evening or a session. The next one will be next Wednesday. We'll also share with you the registration form in advance, and yes, the topic that will be there, and we'll meet in a session. So already 10 minutes. We've taken 10 minutes of your time. I think we can call it an evening. Thank you. All right. Think I can now close, or I will just leave. Yeah, thanks.